Hello and welcome to the Evolving HubSpot podcast by Huble Digital, a podcast where we explore the topics that matter the most in the world of HubSpot. I'm your host, Matthew Creswick, and in this episode today, I'm joined by two of my favorite people at Huble Digital. Firstly, Amy Dwyer, Chief Strategy Officer based out of our Munich office. Morning, Amy. Welcome to the podcast.
Morning, Matt. Lovely to be here.
Fantastic. And secondly, I'm joined by Jessica Gamble, VP of Consulting Services, based out of our London office. And welcome to the podcast, Jess.
Thanks, Matt. It is lovely to be here with you.
Well, welcome both. Thank you for joining. Today, obviously, with both of you being part of our kind of consulting team at Huble, maybe I'll start with you, Amy. You can tell us maybe a little bit, very high level about your role and kind of what you do at Huble.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Chief Strategy Officer, I work very closely together with Jess with all of our consultants, both from a sales and CX perspective, making sure that we are really in the position to help guide and consult our clients across the entire customer journey, helping them to identify and optimize their processes and being able to build out great marketing and also sales strategies to help them to grow their business.
Amazing. And obviously from your accent, Irish born, Munich based.
Absolutely. It's a great mixture. Irish born, have been out here in Munich for lots and lots of years at this stage. So I'm proud of the Irish accent. We have to keep it in there. It's my objective to get all German speakers with Irish accents on board.
Good luck on your mission. And Jess,
thank you.
And Jess, you're based in our London office, correct? And work closely with Amy's team.
I do, yes. I work very closely with Amy and our team of consultants who are based all over the world. So it is a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, look, we're here today on the latest episode of the Evolving HubSpot podcast. We are going to be talking about the recent IDC white paper that was released by HubSpot, obviously in collaboration with IDC. IDC stands for International Data Corporation. So they're a company who do a lot of kind of market intelligence research, especially in kind of information technology, telecoms, that kind of thing. But obviously in our world at Huble, they wrote a white paper on the business value of HubSpot Marketing Hub. Now, both of you, kind of as you referenced, obviously work with clients in CX and sales consultancy. Within this is the world of use of HubSpot Marketing Hub, be it a small company kind of getting up and running, or be it a enterprise company trying to use it on a global scale, and trying to get the most out of it. The IDC white paper kind of provided some pretty cool stats if you're a company looking to use HubSpot. Now, we'll try and make this not too much of a biased podcast where we're pushing HubSpot as the chosen choice, but obviously as a kind of elite HubSpot partner, it's the tool that we help clients on the most. So we'll try and create some sort of balance to this argument. But I guess to kick things off, the kind of highlight stat from the white paper itself was around the 505% 3-year ROI. Now, obviously, that's pretty remarkable in the sense that over a 3-year period, companies will make a 505 ROI on the cost of the HubSpot software. Jess, to start with you, I guess where do you see kind of companies using HubSpot Marketing Hub at the moment, and I guess especially in the last kind of 12 months or so? Are you seeing that stat kind of show and kind of come up with how your clients are actually using the tool?
Yes, Matt, I totally agree. And I love what you said earlier, trying not to make it so much of a biased chat. But it has been really amazing to see some of the feedback from our clients when they have been using HubSpot for about a year, talking about how easy it is to use and that it's really intuitive. The great thing about how easy it is to use is that teams adopt it really quickly and enjoy using it. And we all know that user adoption is one of the reasons that a lot of projects fail when you're bringing in a new piece of software. So it's really great to see the project managers that we work with at our clients' businesses, as well as our clients who are using the marketing tools themselves, talk about just how easy it is to use and pick up.
Awesome. Cool. And I obviously looking at the product suite within the Marketing Hub tool, the ROI that companies are seeing are obviously due to things like tools helping them, assisting them, kind of improving the use of their marketing tools when it comes to lead generation, when it comes to customer experience, when it comes to, I guess, the efficiency of their team. I guess, Amy, from your perspective, kind of what are those things that HubSpot Marketing Hub allows people to do, which is kind of providing this ROI that the white paper is talking around?
Yeah, I mean, I think let's take an example of large organizations that are cross-regional, for example. One of the major benefits that was brought out some time ago was the ability, for example, to clone campaigns. So we've seen among multiple users that they may have a campaign set up within the global entity, and then they run that, see how effective it is. They're able to make adjustments, but then they're able to clone this and roll it out in different regions, making the relevant adjustments that they may need, taking the learnings into consideration, but without them having to actually start from scratch. So that's been a huge, let's say, time saving on the one hand for more fragmented marketing teams. But equally, I think it's enabling the regions or enabling different teams to be able to see, assess, and really benefit from the learnings of each other. And again, not having to start from scratch. The other aspect, I think, as well, is obviously the ability to pass on relevant leads to sales very, very easily. So this whole close collaboration that's feasible between marketing and sales, being able to optimize that, meaning that you're able to generate those leads and track the actual deal volume that they're bringing in, that they're closing, and assess your marketing ROI very, very clearly, to be able to then assess and optimize moving forward. So yeah, I think it's been like the developments over the last let's say 2 to 3 years have really been fundamental from that perspective. Facilitating in particular larger teams, I think, as well, to make the most out of it.
Awesome. And I guess, Jess, you referenced the kind of user adoption part of the success of that ROI of the system. How I guess working with clients day to day who maybe have come from other tools, be it kind of using smaller tools and moving on to HubSpot, or using kind of similar sized tools and moving on to HubSpot. What kind of, I guess, reaction, adoption, kind of, enjoyment, shall we say, of using the tool do you see in your day-to-day working?
Oh, that's a really great question. And I love talking about how excited our clients get using the tool. I guess what we see a lot of is how much they enjoy the support that they get. Now, there is a lot of HubSpot support that they get for like pure tool functionality. But I guess we work with a lot of our clients on like support in terms of the actual setup of their processes within the tool. And I guess there is quite a lot of like, we set up things, we teach our clients how to use things, but then there is so much that they can do themselves without needing a developer, a designer. Like there's so much that they can do within the tool, and so many things that HubSpot launched at Inbound earlier this year that mean that our clients can really do a lot themselves and have like less reliance on an agency or a partner where needed.
Absolutely. And I think they're kind of especially the launches from Inbound, I think are only going to make using the tool easier and easier, especially with the use of AI and stuff like that kind of moving forward. So I guess the second of the 4 kind of stats that we'll reference throughout is around 73% more effective marketing teams, for marketing teams obviously adopting and using HubSpot Marketing Hub. Now, on the face of it, what that means is ultimately teams who use HubSpot compared to other platforms are more effective in their day-to-day, but are more effective in terms of the results that they're bringing in as well. I guess maybe to start with you, Amy, why at the outset, kind of where do you see that kind of effectiveness come from? Is it from adoption? Is it from the quality of the tools? Kind of where do you see that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think it's actually a mixture of multiple pieces. So on the one hand, you have got people being able to pick up and use the tool really, really quickly. But the depth of features that have been implemented as well is just so much that they're able to do so much more in their time. So simple things like all of the adaptive testing, A/B testing, etc. To set that up as a normal HubSpot user has become so easy to gain those insights to then be able to further develop your strategies and make it that much better, I think is been sort of the core of some of those changes that have come in. As Jess said a minute ago, there's people are able to do so much more themselves, drag and drop builders, etc., that have really, developed hugely and progressed so much with every new product launch that comes out. But I think the core of that as well is that it means that people have more time to then focus on actually trying to make their strategies better, to sort of, you're not focusing on just the doing, let's say, because the doing has become so much easier. You're able to actually allow for the tool to do a lot of the doing, and you can then sit back and think about, okay, is what I'm doing sensible? Does it make sense? Should I be doing it differently? Or what can I adjust? Or what can I do more to really ensure a very customer-centric approach, and that you're targeting your leads or you're targeting your customers with the right messages, and you're really making it a very personal experience, not just personalized, but really a very personal experience. And that's something we've definitely seen, that people seem to have more time to be able to do a greater depth of activity rather than just, let's say, I set up a campaign, I launch my campaign, I'm happy that it's up and running and I've met my deadline. And instead I can actually do a multi-layer campaign and make it a much more personal approach. And I think that that's making those marketing teams much more effective, because ultimately the results that they're getting out of it at the end of the day are so much more meaningful.
Yes, and I guess, Jess, how do you see kind of AI playing into what Amy's just referenced? Maybe so. Obviously, we have. I think Amy has ultimately highlighted that marketing teams kind of have more time to work on kind of maybe strategic elements, or ultimately work on other things, because HubSpot is kind of a tool which is effective. It's kind of doing a lot of the maybe manual work that people used to have to do, i.e. developing developing email templates, or kind of even today writing subject lines or writing emails themselves. Is the HubSpot Marketing Hub going to literally take over the role of a marketer moving forward?
Oh, that is a great question. And I guess it's something that we went to a few talks at Inbound about too, because I guess that's what everyone's worried about, right? The robots taking over, taking our jobs. I guess from what we've seen from a whole bunch of AI tools that we've been looking at internally so far, and I guess what we've known for a while, is that they're not coming for the strategy. They're not coming for the thinking. They can do the things that you ask them to do. They can generate some images. They can create subject lines for your emails, which is one of the things that I love that they've released. But you are still going to have to think about the strategy behind what you are doing. What is it that you're wanting to achieve? When HubSpot announced that they were launching the new campaign assistant at Inbound last month, I will never forget, it was a question that someone asked from the audience. Someone said, oh, can it also come up with the idea for your campaign? Like, can it not only just do the supporting assets, but can it come up with the idea? And I remember thinking, of course not. That is what we as humans are still here to do. So yes, I think it's just an evolution for what HubSpot has been able to do for us in the past. Like Amy mentioned, the cloning of campaigns. Like years ago, it was just that you could clone a form or clone a landing page. Now you can use things like Campaign Assistant to set up entire campaigns. But again, as a marketer, you have to focus on your why, your strategy, and what we're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. So I guess one of the other stats from the white paper, which links very well to the points you're both making here, are kind of the effectiveness, efficiency of the actual employees using the tool, so that they have ultimately more time to focus on other things, which are arguably more important than the kind of manual building of emails, writing of subject lines, this kind of thing. The kind of next stat that we highlighted was that HubSpot Marketing Hub makes it 68% quicker time to launch for marketing campaigns. Now that's a pretty bold and big kind of statement, i.e., every marketing campaign you run, you can run it 68% quicker, or from kind of start to launch by using HubSpot. Which kind of, Amy, I guess question for you, which kind of tools specifically are highlighted in that? Like what physically in HubSpot is kind of helping people to launch those campaigns quicker?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's quite a few things, but let's say the core of what has made the Marketing Hub so powerful from the beginning has always been two pieces, in my opinion. It's the list tool, so the ability to segment and really to make sure that you're approaching the right people with your campaigns, and then obviously the workflows tool. Now, neither of these are new. Yeah, they've been around since the launch of the HubSpot Marketing Hub, I would imagine. However, they have continued to grow in their depth and complexity, and I think that that's what's really driving a lot of these topics. So if we think about the amount of new features within the workflows tool, the fact that we can, use custom objects much more, the types of actions that can be included growing all of the time. So, for example, being able to use WhatsApp and multiple other channels along the way just means that not only I can create holistic campaigns out of one system, and I don't have to then, take a tracking code and put it somewhere else and, have sort of a segmented campaign approach, which, used to be the case. Of course, there's still some channels that are not included, but they're reducing in as time goes on. So I do think that that has been a major driver, on top of obviously the AI that we've just been talking about, and which is probably going to be the biggest game changer as we move forward when it comes to reduction of time.
Yeah. And I guess one for you, Jess, would be around kind of that effectiveness of those teams, and easy maybe fear or kind of challenge that people might have when they're thinking about potentially moving on to HubSpot, and kind of questioning that is, although their teams can maybe launch campaigns quicker, the fear behind that is kind of, are they as maybe high quality? Like, what are the things that are missing in order to kind of launch a campaign quicker? I think you've referenced already things like the ease of use, things like especially around the email tool. Drag and drop emails are now incredibly easy to use within HubSpot. When I think back of using the tool first, kind of 8-9 years ago, and the pain of trying to create an email, and the pain of kind of trying to make the template look exactly how I wanted it without the use of a developer. I guess what kind of things in the tool are you seeing that are speeding up that kind of start to launch for a marketing campaign, but are keeping, and a key thing is keeping kind of the quality of emails, website pages, from an SEO perspective, from a content perspective, keeping all of that quality as high as it can be?
Yeah, well, I guess you touched on the ease of use, and I really do think that is a big driver here. Like, that is why things are getting quicker, is because it is so easy to, and the teams feel comfortable. You mentioned emails having drag and drop functionality, which, Matt, I completely agree with you, is absolutely night and day from how it was when I first started using the tool many years ago. Landing pages, also drag and drop functionality, incredible. And also there's the ability to buy templates. Like, if you don't have anything, or if you have something that you're really looking for, some special functionality, you can really easily buy one in the marketplace. I guess for me, what brings it all together is, I guess, the campaigns tool, and the really nice, almost like checklist it can take you through if you are worried about what you are not thinking about in your campaign. But I guess, again, that is still, we're talking about like supporting assets. We're not talking about like the strategy behind the campaign, or like the goal that we're trying to achieve. Although I would always recommend that they add a goal to their campaigns. But there are things like the campaign calendar, where you can see where everything's planning to go out, so that you make sure that you're not scheduling all of your social messages for the launch of your campaign on the same day that possibly another regional team is doing something else. But I guess, similar to what Amy said, I think a lot of these tools have been here for a while. But I think it's part of also HubSpot being recognized for its functionality and I guess its ability to compete with some of the bigger tools out there.
Yes, and an interesting point at the end there, Jess, because I know HubSpot is, obviously in our world, kind of seen as a tool that can be used by enterprise companies. I know you both work with kind of companies with multi-regional, divisional product marketing teams kind of set across the world who are using it. So the myth of HubSpot being a tool that kind of has a ceiling where you would need to move on to a larger tool kind of is slowly fading away in a good way. I guess, Amy, your kind of dual role at Huble, one being obviously working in our consulting team and working closely with Jess on our clients, but secondly, heading up and being our managing director of our German entity. You're also involved within that kind of sales conversation and kind of Jess referenced obviously HubSpot being compared to the likes of Dynamics and Salesforce and the like. How are you seeing kind of, I guess, especially within the marketing hub as opposed to the CRM as a whole, how are you kind of seeing that landscape of HubSpot and where it sits amongst those other kind of big names at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point and very, very relevant over here, in particular on the German market, I must say, I think that HubSpot definitely is renowned for being very strong from a marketing perspective. The one thing that's changing at the moment is that people are starting to understand that the fact that HubSpot is one system, it's built on one code base, and irrelevant of I am focusing on the marketing side of the world or on the sales side of the world or on service, we have one consistent look and feel. We have one core database. There's no interpretation of data. There's no integrations required, etc. And that is definitely helping to position HubSpot very strongly against those market competitors that we're seeing out there who don't have the same USP. They definitely have a strategy whereby they have integrated multiple tools. And if we think about it, to your question, from a marketing perspective in particular, HubSpot started in the marketing world. We all know that. And hence, I think it's very easy to argue and to see the success within the marketing space for HubSpot. But what's really helping to win deals and to grow into larger clients is that very streamlined and smooth usage, let's say, between the different teams. But ultimately breaking down those barriers between those different teams. And that's why I'm really a fan of not looking at just marketing or just sales, because let's say I'm a marketing person focused on lead generation. I have to work hand in hand with sales in order to be able to really achieve my objectives for the company. And equally, a sales guy needs to work hand in hand with the relevant marketing person to ensure that his market needs are clearly being recognized and identified. And I think that's where HubSpot really shines, in particular against some of the other players on the market. So it's definitely an advantage, in particular for those companies who can start breaking down those barriers, which have existed for many, many years. But for those who have reached that stage and are able to look beyond the barriers, I think it's clearly coming out as being a very strong advantage from HubSpot.
Interesting. And Jess, from your side as well?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think we're seeing it across the board globally. Obviously, I talked to Amy a lot about that, the situation in Germany, but we're seeing it in the US. I think we are coming up against the likes of Dynamics, Salesforce a lot more frequently. And yes, I think in the past, HubSpot was definitely looked at as more of a marketing automation tool. And I mean, it's still ranked, I think, number one on G2 as a marketing automation tool. But now it is really the CRM side of things that is pushing it forward. And I think their phrase is that they're crafted, not cobbled, or something like that, which I guess calls on that point that they are everything's built together, built on the same core, and all of their tools and functionality works perfectly together.
Yeah, and I guess from a practical perspective, Jess, what you've referenced in terms of the crafted, not cobbled, which I think is what you said. from a practical perspective, what that means is, as a marketing employee at a company that's using HubSpot, there's no, the opposite of using HubSpot, where something has been cobbled together, is, if you're sending an email, or if you're trying to publish a social post, or if you're trying to build some automation, ultimately you're kind of working in potentially different systems, logging into different systems, kind of having to fix these things together and try and integrate them. Very different kind of look and feels, that kind of thing. Whereas in HubSpot, you're literally using the same tool. There's one login, and then there's one, UX. There's one view, which I think everything that the kind of IDC white paper talks about is how HubSpot is kind of easy to use, making people more efficient, more effective. So that those things lend themselves to being that kind of one code base system. Now, I guess to kind of bring this towards a close, with kind of the last stat that we'd identified from the report, and you've both referenced kind of how global teams who may be working in kind of different product areas, different divisions, obviously different regional marketing teams, can become more efficient and effective using a tool like HubSpot, again, compared to other tools. Now, the stat out of IDC is that 59% quicker ability to coordinate global launches. So if you're doing a launch or a campaign or something, and you need it in different languages, you obviously may want to adjust content or imagery or something based on regional preferences. Even things like GDPR and data legislation, obviously being slightly different in slightly different areas of the world. Just starting with yourself, kind of how do you see HubSpot, especially in that kind of global launch, global use, global campaigns space? I've referenced a couple of things there, but kind of how do you see those teams being more effective and efficient using HubSpot compared to other platforms?
Well, I think this ties so nicely into like so many points that we've already mentioned today. I guess, firstly, it's the ease of use. Now it's you can train one team, you can train others, like everything again is in the same system, and everything looks the same, as you've mentioned. But we're also seeing that it's really great in terms of they've brought in approval processes. So especially if you have your regional teams launching campaigns that need approval from possibly a global marketing team or anything like that, there are approval processes now built into HubSpot. There are also different reporting views and filters that you can set up, which means that you can create, I guess, one dashboard or one set of reports that then you can filter to see the regional performance of your global campaign. There are the things that Amy mentioned earlier, the cloning of campaigns, the cloning of all of those assets, which means you can use them regionally. But I guess the big one that I wanted to talk about was the multi-language functionality. Now, by that, I'm not referring to the fact that you can use HubSpot in a different language if English is not your first language, but that HubSpot supports multi-language functionality. So you can manage content in different languages, and that extends to blogs, forms, landing pages, web pages. And if you create, for example, a web page in different languages, those pages are still connected together in your portal, which means it's really easy to use, update, and see what's going on. And yeah, I think that functionality really does mean that global launches with, I guess, regional differences, localization is really easy within the tool.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I mean, selfishly, from my perspective, even if we look at ourselves at Huble, that is a tool which is fundamental to our business and our success, right? I think we as a company, even at our size of kind of 175 people, would be questioning which CMS we were using if it didn't provide that kind of level of kind of functionality and translation. I guess, Amy, from your perspective, obviously, kind of, working across kind of the DACH region, obviously things like, data legislation are slightly different in the region compared to other regions. What else do you see kind of, from a global launch perspective that HubSpot kind of allows teams to do that other platforms may not?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you rightly said, from a DACH perspective, the whole topic of data security, who has access to what, and how the whole, I'd say, double opt-in and opt-in processes are managed is something that is really quite complex. And every company has a different way of understanding and wanting to implement how it works. And I think that's been something that, over the last number of years, we have learned there's so many different ways to implement the legal, let's say, the legal requirements of individual companies, and to make sure that we're able to set HubSpot up to really adhere to individual requirements has been fundamental in ensuring that we have successful global launches. On the one hand, we have the possibility of creating, completely customized, say, double opt-in processes, which is something that for the German market is vital. We have to have double opt-in. Not every country in Europe does, but to be able to then adjust it to make sure that the experience of the individual users and customers is relevant to their local requirements, for example, is really important to make sure that that whole lead generation can be as efficient and effective as possible, and that we're not just having a one method suits all setup. So I think that flexibility is vital. What has been great in the last while has been the development of the permissionings, the team functionalities, etc. within HubSpot. So that has come on greatly and really ensures that we're able to ensure that the right people can see also, for example, the right content from an internal user perspective, that we can really segment internally who can access what, not only data, but also, for example, what campaigns, that I can restrict access to certain activities to individual user groups. And that has been very important over here, I would say, in quite a lot of the ongoing campaign management, I would say, for clients that we have. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, look, I said to you based at the start of this podcast, I think this was going to be fun. This is that was a whirlwind. We're kind of over 30 minutes through this, and it feels like about 5 minutes. But to try and kind of, I guess, bring this to a wrap, shall we say? Question for both of you, and Amy, we'll start with you. If you're a company kind of thinking about looking at that HubSpot Marketing Hub, regardless of whether you're using HubSpot CRM, Salesforce, Dynamics, like you can plug HubSpot Marketing Hub into kind of all of these major CRM systems. Looking to kind of 2024 and beyond, if you're considering HubSpot, obviously we've spoken today about a very positive view on the platform. What are the considerations that you think people need to be making kind of before they make a purchase and dive into using HubSpot? If anyone is interested, using the tool over the next few months and moving into next year.
Yeah, good question. And it's a very difficult one to answer because there's so many things that we could be talking about, a lot of the things we've spoken about today. But one thing we haven't actually mentioned so far is I believe that HubSpot's dedication to progressing the tool is absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, if you look at it and the developments that come out on a monthly basis, it's hard for anybody to keep up to speed, to be honest, on absolutely everything that comes out. But this reassurance that there is such a strong commitment to the ongoing development of the tool and to groundbreaking technology. So we know that, like, Dharmesh is such an amazing technology leader, and who's so, he's so strongly ingrained in the growth of the tool, and such an incredible person mind in this context, that it's really reassuring to know that you're looking at a tool that is going to be future proof. Yeah, it's going to move with the changing market needs. And I think that's something that in particular, we've seen over the last year, like, our market has just changed so fundamentally within the last year that it makes it all the more important to see this commitment and to really believe that that's where it's going. And I think that is absolutely vital in making such decisions. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Jess, yourself?
I know. Can I just say what Amy said? No, but I guess there are so many marketing tools out there. And I guess for companies who are looking for their next tool, like, I would say to really consider your requirements for a tool. I guess, and why I say that is, if you're just looking for a tool to, like, send a couple of emails, like, HubSpot isn't it. It does so much more than that, and therefore it's going to cost you a lot more than just an email. Just a tool that's going to send a couple of emails. But I would really say that they really need to consider like what they are looking to achieve and what they need. And I guess similar to what Amy said, if they're looking for a tool that is going to constantly improve and grow with what is happening in the world, then I'd say that HubSpot is for them.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you both. Like I said, that was a whirlwind of HubSpot stats and effectiveness and efficiencies, tactics and strategies. Thank you to all of our listeners for listening today. And we, as ever, encourage everyone to subscribe if you're finding the content interesting. But I guess, first of all, Amy, thank you for joining us on your first appearance on the Evolving HubSpot episode on podcast, and hopefully not the last.
I hope so too. It was my pleasure.
Thank you kindly. And Jess, as ever, thank you for joining us too.
Thanks, Matt.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.